Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today in the program, I have Rockstar photographer Austin Caine. Austin, who is also a man that wears many hats. He also is a member of the Charlotte Beard Mustache Club, as well as video editor and a lot of other cool things that he does. And we talk about all of them. And me being a man that also wears many hats, me and Austin have a lot of things in common, and a lot of things kind of click up for us. And, he's a very positive person, which I'm trying to be a very positive person. So I'm looking to Austin and some guidance in that. And he's definitely an extremely positive person. And there's a very unique story on this podcast. And dare I say, it's one of the best stories I've ever captured on this podcast so far. And it is a story where Austin's positivity is put to the test. And it is a ridiculous story just to hear. And there are laughs in it where there shouldn't be laughs. There's some very tragic things that come up, and we were able to laugh about them because there's a little bit of distance. And Austin is a very wonderful individual for letting me laugh at some of those situations. And he understands that there's a little bit of hilarity to the predicament that he found himself in not too long ago. But like I said, it was his positivity and his hard work that's pushed him through that and made him a rock star photographer, as he calls himself. So, more power to him. And that's why we got him on the podcast, to share his story. Share it with you, the listeners. Let you know that, hey, people are doing wonderful and great things here in the Southeast. And if you know anybody that should be on this podcast, or any suggestions to me for people like, hey, this guy's got a great story, or hey, this guy's doing something and more people should know about it, please let me know. Get in contact with me. It's not hard. I am very available on social media, and you can do that simply by following me on Twitter at ManScoutManning, or on Instagram at ManScoutManning. If you have a question about the podcast, or if you want to become a sponsor, I kind of need a new one of those. Make sure you email me at jake@sslshow.com. Or if you want to book me for an upcoming wrestling event or an upcoming stand-up comedy gig, please email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. Before we jump into this podcast, let me just give you one date very far in advance. It's very thin right now. It's the holiday season for me right now. The only thing I really got on the schedule so far for early January is PWX. That is Sunday, January 10th. It is in Charlotte, North Carolina at Label at the NC Music Factory. So make sure you show up for that. I believe it's a matinee show. For more information, make sure you log on to pwxpro.com. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into this wonderful podcast with rockstar photographer and all-around positive person who wears many hats, Austin Caine, here on Stranger in a Southern Land. Well, folks, I'm sitting here with Austin Caine, a man who wears many hats. And not right now. You're not wearing a hat.
I forgot my hat.
I've got several different hats. But if you want to wear some during the middle of this, but that's fine. But like I said, different hats. Yes, you could wear the Man Scout hat, trusty Man Scout hat.
Doesn't fit over the headphones.
I'm trying to keep it up there so the bill kind of, as you can tell, it bends a little bit, but don't worry about it. It's beat up. I need to ask Sergeant Slaughter how he kept such a trim brim on his hat.
Or if they put some sort of stiffening agent on it.
Yeah, it might be something that, and then also I've seen little wood things they slide them into.
Yeah.
So, like a fan one time wanted me to sign their hat, and he had a better case for his hat for me to sign than the hat that I wear on the weekend. So I thought that was a little strange. But anyways, Austin, more about you. You're a man who does a lot of things. And I think that was the thing that kind of intrigued me about wanting to sit down and talk to you, is because I'm a man that does multiple different things. I do stand-up comedy, improv, podcasting. Nice. I work for an online wrestling merchandise company, and I do professional wrestling. But you, Austin, cool. You have a lot of things that you do. I don't know exactly where we're gonna start on this. So
just list some things off.
Well, why don't you list them off, and then we're gonna dissect, deconstruct every corner of those.
Well, mainly, first of all, I'm doing photography. That's my main gig these days. I guess I can, there we go, get a little more on the mic. Doing more photography these days, graphic design in between to supplement, when there's not photo gigs. But lately I've been trying to, I don't know, I always call it the Apple effect. Like I'm just sort of upping my, now that I have a steady graphic design gig, just sort of upping my photography prices and clientele and, just so I do less jobs for more money, work harder, not smarter, or work smarter, not harder.
Either or of those. They kind of work out the same.
Do all the work and get no money. That's how it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels like. But no, like, what type of graphic work do you do? Like,
man, I've done everything, honestly. And I'm so broad here. Logos, I do website design, print design, I've business cards and flyers, things like that. I've done stuff for magazines, layouts, trifold design, it depends. I mean, even now with my photography, I've started to move into cinematography and filming, and I'm doing a little filmmaking here and there. And that combined with my graphic design background is making me intrigued with motion graphics. So if you're, you have like the name coming up across the screen and the breaking news.
Yep, that's what I'm trying to get in now too. And it almost seems like it's easier to get into video editing if you have that graphics background.
Very much so.
Because for me, it was always like, learn how to edit. But apparently learning how to edit is the least important thing about editing that you need to know.
Well, what I find, what applies is things like layering, understanding layering, understanding different blending modes, understanding, transitions and things. That comes from graphic design. You're going to learn a lot of that coming up doing graphics in Photoshop. And then I came over to After Effects in Adobe, and it was almost the same layout, just with motion instead of still.
And I think that's the thing too, is now the Adobe has been the industry standard, and it seems like everything stems from Photoshop, all those applications. Because I last Friday I was actually like finally going to sit down because I've got the Adobe like suite, and I was like, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to learn how to do After Effects because I've been a Final Cut guy forever.
Yeah, I did that for a while. Yeah.
I need to be over here on After Effects and figure out what it is. And the first thing that I got on a tutorial was like, okay, open up a Photoshop file. I'm like, I've never created a Photoshop file, so I am basically starting from square one. Yeah. So I almost feel like it's almost easier. Like if people want to get into video editing, it's like no, learn how to do Photoshop first, and then learn how to edit.
I kind of feel bad for people these days because I started with Photoshop 4. I started editing before I was ever a photographer. Before I ever even really was into anything art-wise, I was messing with Photoshop because I got a bootleg copy a long time ago from a friend.
Who didn't?
This was before torrents and everything. This was I had a friend. It was like my mom's boyfriend's brother at the time was a developer and had a copy and wasn't using it and gave it to me.
Or a crack code. And then if you don't use it, a red X will show up.
They've gotten much better at detecting that kind of stuff these days.
Much better.
But luckily, my graphic design job got me a subscription to Adobe Suite CC, and so I've got all of them. And that's actually helped me a lot with my film editing because now I've got Premiere and After Effects, the latest versions, fully legit and everything. Which is kind of nice. But, I've come up through Photoshop versions and I've seen all the little pieces added on over the years. And so it hasn't been hard for me to follow along. But now I'm someone who doesn't know what they're doing opens it and it's just like, here's everything. Do it.
It is overwhelming. But like I said, I took a few tutorials and it's like, oh, I'm grasping the knowledge of this a little bit easier. And it almost seems like now the version that they have out now is like so easy.
And they've split it up too. There's a Lightroom is out now, which is like if you want to just be a photo editor, you've got that, and that takes away all of the extra vector and 3D and all the other stuff that Photoshop does and pares it down to just cleaning up your photos, which is nice for people because. And two, I think Adobe is benefiting from the same thing that like Kleenex and Band-Aid has, where Photoshop has now become the term for. Oh,
Let me Photoshop this.
Yeah, that's faked. Even if you used Microsoft Paint, people would still be, that's Photoshopped. So, they're getting that notoriety that way. It probably helps a lot in keeping them on the top.
And, of course, that subscription thing where you're only paying $17 a month, which is nice.
It is,
but then the thought process of like, oh, if I have this for 2 years, I've now overpaid for this thing.
That's true.
I
guess, but it keeps you on the latest version.
Yeah, it keeps you on the latest version. I guess that's their incentive to it. So.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, my job is now paying for it. So yeah, all right. Yeah.
Well, where did that interest come in graphics and stuff like that? I wish somebody would have nurtured that me more, because I was a big guy that I don't know if you did this or not too. I would take a lot of like pictures and like cut them out and then Xerox them, which the old version of Photoshop.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I used to play around with copy machines and stuff too. I got into it not for any kind of graphic designer element. I was really just. I like to mess with photos. I like to, I'm the reason you can't trust a photo on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, I just like to do that. I like to get a photo and add things to it, or change skin color, or blow the eyes up, or just, do goofy stuff. I was a kid growing up learning this stuff and just kind of messing around. And that just, I'd go online and find a tutorial. How do I make fiery looking text? Or how do I, brush the skin away or whatever? And over time, all these little tutorials and all this knowledge stays built up, and then you suddenly have to do a job, and you're like, oh, how am I gonna? Oh, I know how to do that because of this and because of this, and suddenly you know what you're doing, and just kind of, oh, okay.
I'm taking notes because that's where I'm at. I'm taking the tutorials and figuring it out right now.
YouTube is your friend, believe me.
Yes.
And see, I didn't have YouTube. I didn't even have video tutorials coming up. I had to go step by step reading them most of the time. Flip back and forth.
That.
Yeah. Now you can watch someone do it and then, oh, okay, I get it, and then go do it until you can't remember the step, and then go back to that point in the video. Oh, okay, cool. That works a lot better. Before it was step 1, open the blah, blah, blah tool, and a paragraph later. Okay, what was I doing?
Yeah, and you got to read through it, especially since I'm dyslexic. Like, reading is just impossible. Yeah. But when you get a YouTube and they're showing you exactly where to go.
Yeah.
But, like, that was the thing, too, with video editing. Like, I remember the days of linear editing, tape by tape basis, VHS to VHS.
See, for me now, I feel both advantaged and disadvantaged in that way. I don't have any experience even in film, like in photography. I don't have experience with film cameras at all. I get them, I understand them, I get that. I can take the knowledge that I know now from digital and probably go shoot a film camera, but I just don't have that hands-on experience. Same with video. I don't have that actually cut the film and paste it back together.
Oh, don't worry, you don't need it.
I know. But it's just, I don't know.
It'll only just teach you to be more precise on the first time around. That's all it really does.
Yes.
I haven't found any overall advantages to it anymore. As long as you have a nice swinging graphic that comes in that you created out of Photoshop, you're fine. They don't worry about the jump cuts as much anymore, apparently.
No, and editing too. Like, I've done a few. I've been getting into the short film industry, I guess, here in Charlotte, whatever the tiny bit that exists now. But there are some guys that are, there's the 48-hour Film Fest and the 100 Words Film Fest and all these little things, incentives to make just these little 2-3 minute films. We did one for the 48-hour fest that ended up being 18 minutes long.
Were you working with Robot Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that's who Candace lined me up with you, and she was the one that lined up the one with Charlotte Geeks.
Oh, yeah,
and she was the one that lined up Robot Johnson. So because of her, this is now the third one she's lined up. So thank you, Candace, for this.
Yeah, Candace is awesome.
I know, but talk about the 48-hour film fest, because I did it. I was on a different team, so I was just a guy picking up boxes. I didn't.
Well, what's funny is I had a friend of mine who had mentioned the whole 48-hour Film Fest to me and had said, hey, you should get involved. And I'm like, yeah, that looks cool. All right. But I didn't really have any ideas or anything to do. So I didn't pay any more attention. And then suddenly a couple of the Robot Johnson guys hit me up out of nowhere and go, hey, we have this idea for a movie we want to do, but we need someone to film it and edit it.
And that's let this be a lesson to all the young listeners and viewers out there. If you want to make friends with people, get a video camera and editing system, and all of a sudden friends will come out of the woodwork.
Oh man, I have so many bands just coming. Hey man, can you do a video?
You'll be the most popular guy around.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work. I mean,
yes,
man, at first anyway. I guess hopefully it gets easier, but editing takes forever. The rendering, the watching, the rewatching. With photo editing, an hour of shooting, I'm doing maybe half an hour of editing. With video, an hour of shooting, I'm doing 3 days of editing.
Yep. And then there's a lot of, and of course with HD footage, you have to manage space.
Yeah.
Because sometimes these computers don't come, like you could chew up a terabyte very fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on what you're doing. Like I've had a film project that probably required, at the end of it, like between raw footages and re-edits, I think I had close to 3 terabytes of footage.
Jeez.
And not all of it was HD footage either. So that gives you the mere hours that I was working
Wow.
with.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, I just that aspect of it too. And there's a lot of other theories of keeping clips short so you can get them on there. Where I come from the day of SD where you could film for 3 hours and it would fit on your computer, no problem. Now you have to manage it on the front end, far better on the back half.
Yeah, I'm finding that too. The film we did, it's called We Have Steven. It's available on YouTube. Steven with a PH. It was the whole thing was very serendipitous. You know, they came to me, they said, we want to do this. I was all great. It'll be my first film, really. I did a few little documentaries on some bands and friends of mine that, you know, they're okay. They're very clearly just one-man little projects.
Yeah.
But this was the first thing I'd ever really done where I had to film scenes and do editing and everything, because I was filming and editing. So being both the guy behind the camera, the guy deciding the shots, and the guy editing, I got to think about what I was going to do later when I was shooting. So I got to think about certain transitions of when I would turn things.
It really
like
is the best way.
Yeah.
Editor, director, that's the way to go.
Yeah, it worked really well. And I hope to continue doing that if I can, continue to have the time to do these edits because it's fun. I'm still learning editing myself. I wouldn't call myself an editor yet, but I can definitely do some things and make something look not super crappy. So, I'm getting there.
Well, you'll find out, especially now, and at least I'm finding out now because I'm doing a lot of projects that I didn't film.
Yeah.
It seems like when you get handed projects that aren't filmed properly, that's when you find out how good you really are.
Yeah.
Because I film a lot of wrestling shows, so like the ring will be off kilter. Then I'll need to straighten it out, zoom in, and get it right. And then I just did an interview where it was a low light situation,
Oof, yeah.
and I did kind of a Photoshop thing where I put like underneath the lighter, turned up all the threshold on everything to lighten it up, and then layered it over top, and then turned up the opacity so they blended together.
Ooh, nice.
And then lightened it up. But I wouldn't have thought of that if I wasn't, working with Photoshop at the time. So.
There's probably 1,000 different ways you could have done that.
Oh yeah, there was 1,000. It's just the one I tried accidentally, and it just worked out that way.
That's good. That happened to that was a lot of the film process we had. It was a lot of let's try this. Oh wow, that worked out really well. Sweet, let's keep going. And I mean, the whole thing just rolled along.
And that's the thing is, like, when you're dealing with performances, they have to be on point, and then sometimes technically, lighting, or they missed a mark, or you weren't in focus. Or
I had two really good things going for me for this film. One, it was a mockumentary style, so handheld camera was okay, quick cuts and jumps and turns.
Exactly.
And I was working with a very experienced crew of writer, actor, comedians who have all worked together, and they had that chemistry already. So like writer, actor, much like director, editor. Exactly.
They know how it's.
Yeah, they wrote the script and they're acting it out. Plus, they have experience with each other, so they have that naturalness that you really need to find with people. And so it just all kind of came together. And so we decided to create a little syndicate, I guess you'll call it, a Murder of Fools. Is the little production company we're going to start releasing. I basically have been telling them for years, I need to get you guys have all these sketches already written. Let me film them, turn them into little short videos. Yeah. We can put them out there.
That's the way to go. And when I was talking to them about it just makes sense now, because there's a lot of people, like, the thought process is, if you're good, you got to hurry up and get to LA and New York and be those places. But I don't know if that rule is necessarily, you can be one of those rare cases. There's still rare cases in a sense, but if you put up some good stuff online and continuously do that over an extended period of time, that people will stumble upon you.
Yeah, YouTube is a perfect example of that.
And audition processes aren't so much come in to see you. Now everything's done through Skyping, so already that process is being streamlined through online stuff. Who's to say that finding talent, it won't be any different than somebody just going on YouTube and then searching comedy, and then let's see what's sketch comedy. Yeah. Well, this guy's good in sketch comedy. Let's bring him and do this. You know, and who's to say that? And
that's not a bad way to do it. Honestly, I think that
it's cost effective.
It's more accessible to more people too. A lot of people can't. I'm not going to take my time to go down to an agent. Unless I'm super serious about that. But I've got a life. I've got things going on. I got work. I have my own projects, and so to be able to do stuff and put it online and you can still send out marketing if you want and get people
let it find its audience.
Yeah, exactly.
The secret to the internet is just continuously do things.
Just pour as much as you can in, and hopefully something drips back.
On your keep your schedule, whatever it is. If it's weekly, keep it weekly, and do it for however long.
Yeah,
it may be 6 or 8 years, but people find you, but it'll exist. You know.
What about this show? Your show? Do you do it once a week?
Once a week.
Nice. Cool.
It's kind of tiring. I'll tell you that much. It's now become like a part-time job in a sense, but that's because I'm trying to get ahead because I have a feeling after Thanksgiving it'll be very hard to line up interviews.
Really?
Yes, because I had a hard time in July trying to get interviews lined up and stuff like that, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why is nobody returning my emails? Why is this not happening? What's going on? But then I started thinking, it's like, oh, this is when people are taking family vacations.
Yeah,
this is when people are, off doing whatever other than talking about work, and that was what I kind of discovered. And I almost went dead for a week. Yeah. But luckily, my girlfriend has some notoriety as a former female TNA knockout, and it just happened to be running a show in a couple of weeks after we did it. So she kept this machine moving, and now I'm released yours. Chronologically, you would be like the last week in December. So now I'm that far ahead.
Oh, well, that's cool. So, nice to have a buffer built up.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. Because, But like I said, it's been tiring. Like I said, I've been doing 2 every week now. So, but that's what I'm trying to do now. My thought process is that nobody will know what I'm doing for an entire year. Like that's what
until now.
Until this interview, the changes podcast things. Yeah. It changes everything. This is where the subscribers jump up to 10,000, and then I get stamps.com to sponsor me, and I'm numbered top 10 on the iTunes rating. I'm just waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for this interview.
This is the one.
Well, but you've done big things yourself. Let's not talk about the big things I will be eventually doing. But
I feel like I've done big things, but I don't have. It's like these things that I do. It's like I go out and I do it and I come back, and then I go out and I do it and I come back, and every now and then I'll hear back from somebody out there in the real world who's
But the secret to that is at least that I feel like I've experienced it a little bit is that you keep going out and do and you come back and keep. But the thing is, the thing that you reached out and you did, that still exists. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if you do enough of those, 5 years from now, that thing that you did, somebody might just be stumbling onto it now.
Yeah.
And then they discover these other things that you've done, and then all of a sudden it's that body of work. Yeah. It's, you got to keep doing that.
I have to get better at conglomerating my body of work so that it can be seen. My photos are good. I've got a whole great photography website, but everything else I do is just out there.
Like talk about some of the things you've took pictures of. I guess I was trying to think of the professional photography. I was trying to think what the classical term is, but if it's just what you took pictures of. Yeah. But that makes it sound like you just took it with your phone.
Yeah, it's everything, man. I just got done with it ranges from I shot for Time Warner Cable at one of their business golf outings, and I just literally got to drive around the cart on a cart all day and shoot people playing golf. That was fun. A little boring, but fun. And then a week before that, I was shooting a ballerina doing some really amazing dance moves for some real dramatic lighting, and that was just for art, just for fun. I shot Michelle Obama and James Taylor when they came and did a dinner at the Ballantine Hotel. I was one of 2 photographers, and that was a funny story. Actually, it was about 3 a.m. and I was just surfing Facebook on a friend's photography page, looking at his stuff, and someone made a post, and they're like, "I'm a Washington D.C. photographer. I'm coming to Charlotte. I need an event photographer for Friday. Like blah blah blah." And it was something. It was like $1,000 in 10 hours, and I was like, "Oh, okay, $100 an hour."
All right.
What's up? And I was just happened to be one of the first ones to see that post, and I sent her a link to. I had shot the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce before because she asked for like a businessy event type photography. She didn't tell me what it was for, but and then I noticed just tons of responses. So I'm like, well, whatever. And then I heard back from her because
you were the first one.
No, because I was the only one who sent her business related events. Everyone else sent her like weddings and other stuff and portraits and not the right thing. So she went, "Oh, you've done this before, speakers at podiums," because that's really what it was. And so then she called me and she just started vetting me, like, what kind of equipment do you use? How long have you shot for? All this stuff. And he's just like all these berating me with all these questions. Like, what is this? Like, I answered them all. And she's like, "Okay, sounds good. Well, here's the job." And she proceeds to tell me that I'm, going to be photographing Michelle Obama at her state dinner thing. It was before the Democratic National Convention came. And James Taylor was going to be there playing a private performance. And it was me and her, and that was it. The only photographers allowed, and I was like, wow. So
that's awesome.
That was pretty cool. It was my only experience with Secret Service, who actually happened to be really nice guys. Like, you think they must be like super dicks because they're like ultra cops, and no, they were all super really nice. And what's funny is real big guys, too, real tall. and one of them was standing beside me, and we were waiting with the hotel manager because she was going to come through the door and meet him, and I was going to shoot that. And I was just talking to him. He's a real nice guy. We were just talking, but I asked her. I said, "Hey, when she comes through the door, how do I address her? Like, do I say Miss Obama, Madam President, or like what do I say? You know, what's the term?" And I swear to God, it's so funny. He looks dead at me, and he's like, "I don't know. I'm not allowed to address her." And it just turns.
It'd be even funnier if he's like, just call her M.
Just call her M. Yeah, you know, she's pretty chill. She's whatever.
Just call her Mo. M-O.
But this like, it was just this huge, just like, you know, he's just standing, he's a big, tall guy, and he's just like, I don't know, I'm not allowed, you know.
Not allowed. I'm actually looking to make sure that nobody addresses her, actually, to be quite honest.
Well, it made me wonder. I was like, well, shit, I mean, if you're not allowed to, what do I call her?
I'm definitely not allowed to. Like, you're allowed to at least ride in the same car with her. I'm not.
Exactly. So I didn't. So I just was very much like, oh, look this way, hello, click, click, thank you. And then they went back to talking, and I was shooting for a minute, and then one of the guys walks over and puts his hand on my shoulder real firm and was like, that's enough. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't want to work right now anyways. I appreciate that.
But they were all real nice. Everything was cool. And, we did our whole thing. And that was fun. And then completely different from that, I've gone down to Miami and shot Winter Music Conference. And I got in, I had like 17 VIP wristbands up my arm and got into every single thing backstage and I was on stage with the major performances and DJs like shooting. And, I got to shoot like thousands of people in the crowd and stuff. And it was fun because I was doing a Beatport beach party. And I had gotten up there, and I'm a total ham with photography. I like to be part of the performance. I don't want to just be that weird guy off in the corner, like click, click, click.
Yeah.
I like to be a rocktographer, is what people have called me. So I'm all right with it. Rocktographer.
Did you coin that phrase, or has that been circling around?
I did not coin that phrase. Someone called me that, and then someone else called me that. And then I was like, two people. Okay, that's enough. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. What was I talking about?
You were talking about the things you do. You really get in there and you're taking pictures.
Oh, yeah, the Beatport beach party. I was up on stage, and, I was playing with the crowd, and I was kicking beach balls out to them and, pointing at people and having a good time. And I was up there for like 4 hours. I didn't realize. And I didn't know that photographers were supposed to sort of like cycle on and off. And I just kind of stayed up there the whole time, even while other ones were up there. And I learned that they made a special rule at that party, which went on for like 4 more days. Because of me, they're like, photographers are only limited to 10 minutes on stage. But I got my shots. So I was like, all right, cool. See you. I'm out.
I got what I wanted out of the deal. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah.
So you got to think about that. Well, what are some of your favorite things to shoot?
Oh, man. It ranges, really. I like fashion shows a lot, like runway shows. It's a lot of fun. I've always kind of been into the fashion scene a little bit myself. Clearly.
Obviously.
With my jeans and t-shirt.
I could tell right away. As you can tell, so am I.
Yeah, you're looking quite chic over there.
Yes, I've got the standard, the summer comedian outfit,
This is wood panel chic.
Yes, very, very chic. And the thing is, like, the rest of the house, not like this room at all.
Oh, man. I like this.
Which people can't see on camera, but it's like the weirdest wood paneling ever in this room. Yeah. And nowhere else does it exist in this house. Like,
it seems like that in some houses. Like, there's just always that one room in the middle of the house that has all that wood paneling. Like, why? What is that room?
Yeah, I wish when I get some money, like 30 years down the road,
after this interview, you'll have the offers pouring in.
And then I've got all the sponsors and stuff like that. The idea is to knock down that wall and make it bigger, because this whole thing is. I feel like I'm in one of those mousetrap mazes.
Yeah.
Just move like this, but it suits me well right now. It's the home studio, and I still got to put some soundproof stuff up.
Oh, yeah, so. Film magic. All you need is the frame, and you're good.
Yes, as you can tell, I got the exact dimensions for a backdrop for this place. But,
it works well.
But anyways, like, as far as like some of the things you like to take pictures of.
Oh, yeah.
Or photography of. Or
I guess I would say I prefer live events and things that are going on. I like to capture things that are happening rather than pose people and do. I don't mind. I like portraits.
Static. You're gonna get that one shot and you're done.
Yeah.
When there's a lot of motion going on,
right.
There's that potential for that magic moment.
Yeah, exactly. I like catching those little fleeting moments that a lot of people don't ever see. It's a little like that moment you almost dropped something, or is this one person in the background is hopping from this to this, or just some weird little thing. But I always like those because you don't know what it is. It's like hunting in a way. It's like, you know, I'm looking through the eyepiece and I'm just waiting, and I got it, and I got that. You know, it's a lot more fun than just move your arm over here. All right, now turn your leg that way. All right, click. And all right, now, like, you know, it's.
I need to hook you up with some of the wrestling people I know, because
Yeah.
I think you would have some fun with.
Oh
that.
yeah.
Because there's a show happening in January that's going to be at Label, and like they put the graphic on the big screen,
Yeah.
and it's a very nice background, and that usually seems to create like the best pictures for wrestling, because it's high potential for that anyways.
Yeah. I would love to do some wrestling shots. That'd be cool. I'm actually I take Muay Thai.
Okay.
And, a lot of my friends and fellow students, they do fights. I'm only 7 months in. I'm not even close to getting in a ring or anything.
What made you want to do that?
What's funny is I had a friend of mine, and it was a personal fitness thing. She was like, I really want to do Muay Thai for personal fitness. I want someone to do it with me. And I had been wanting to get it back into martial arts for a while. Like I had done some when I was younger, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go try it. And we both went and tried it out, and we both loved it. And I signed up right away, and she kind of was like, oh, okay. And then
I'm done.
And then, well, she liked it and she wanted to come back, and she did just kind of one thing after another. She never had the right amount of money or whatever. And, you know, here I am like 7 months later. I've still got people in the class asking, like, where is she? What happened to her? And, well, I don't know. So I kind of gave up on convincing her. I was like, oh, she'll find it when she wants to. But, you know, once I got in, it was hard at first, just like anything. But once you get into it, it becomes very addicting. And it's one of the best full body workouts I've ever had in my life. It's just fun. And I don't notice an hour and a half go by like nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people are doing like combat sports as like, you know,
like I'm not doing
workouts.
This,
like to personal fitness.
It's not for getting in the ring and fighting.
There's a couple of people that are trying to do that with pro wrestling. I think at our wrestling school, they're doing it as fitness, which is the dumbest thing ever, because all wrestling does is just beat your body up.
Yeah.
Like there's no like
there's no reps and things.
Yeah, there's none of that. You're just like landing on your back. This thing that you need to walk around and stand upright on. You're just punishing it and absorbing punishment on it. That's like saying I'm going to get like punched in the face a bunch because I feel like it's going to be a good workout. You know,
well, everything in Muay Thai it's a lot like kickboxing. It's a core intensive. Yeah, it's a lot of turning and twisting and stuff. And so, you know, after I was feeling things like the muscles behind my knees hurting, and I was like, I didn't even know you could get pain like that back there. So it's been good. But so the point of that was that I have actually been to Label and seen their ring set up with everything, and it is very impressive.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of pictures and stuff like that, but like I think you would probably enjoy that.
Let me know.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put you in contact afterwards. But,
sure.
But anyways,
do it now. Let's just film the whole thing.
Right now. I'll give out this guy's email address and phone number. But anyways, another thing that intrigued me about you, and I think that we might have met before. You're involved in the Beard and Mustache Club of Charlotte.
That's true.
I've definitely, somebody has walked up to me because I look this way and given me a card for the Beard and Mustache Club. So they've reached out.
Yeah.
So, tell me about your involvement and just tell me about the Beard and Mustache Club of Charlotte in general.
Well, I've actually been with them in the Charlotte chapter since the beginning. Now there are beard and mustache clubs all over the U.S. It's a thing. Like ever since Whisker Wars happened on TV.
Yes, I saw that on TV.
It's been a thing before that, but that's when it got popular. More people realized what it was. And I had some friends a few years ago come up to me and say, hey, that we're starting a chapter here in Charlotte. The original North Carolina Beard and Mustache Club of North Carolina, BMC of NC. It's very, very important, the name. It started in Greensboro, and then it was about 7 years ago, and then a chapter came here a few years ago, and we've, the Greensboro is our parent chapter. I don't know much about them. I got asked on camera once, like, oh, tell me about Greensboro, and I was just kind of, and it was live, oh no. Yeah. But the Charlotte chapter, what we do, and what both of them do, it's a charity type organization where basically we raise money for a particular charity. Ours is Safe Alliance, which is a battered women's, really a domestic violence victims shelter. It can be men too, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it's mainly a battered women's shelter.
A couple of relationships I've been in have been very abusive towards me.
Well, you're a wrestler. You're going after these wrestling girls,
Former police officers as well.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, either one. They're going to take you down.
Yeah, I should have known something when she wasn't working for the police force because of an excessive force incident.
Oh, my gosh.
Should have been a red flag. That would have been a red flag.
Can't tell if sexy or dangerous.
Yeah, I have that problem.
Yeah. Well, what we do, man, we just do. We have a meeting once a month, every month, and we were meeting at the Chop Shop, but unfortunately, they're getting torn down in favor of condos.
I know. I just performed at Tremont last night, and that's going to be the same thing.
Is Tremont going too?
Tremont is going too.
Oh, Charlotte, stop! What are you doing?
I know.
Everybody, it's like, hey, let's bring everybody here and live in the places there are to do things, but let's get rid of all the things to do.
Yeah.
Like, what?
That's the thing too. It's just really odd. And then like I always thought these condos were like these buildings were like half full.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're not completely full.
It's not about putting people in there. It's about development and real estate money. That's all it is.
I guess it's about something. It's definitely about money. I don't know how they're making it. It's definitely not on rent because these things are going up half full.
Yeah.
And the question is what happens when a good chunk of people leave because of Bank of America just moves,
right.
And then we're stuck with all these
abandoned
abandoned condos. Yeah, and then we're gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
So,
well, we don't know where we're going, but we will find a new home base. And what we do is aside from having our meetings, we do monthly events, fundraising things. We do competitions, which is a whole lot of fun. The Whisker Wars idea that people come in from many states to compete, and we had one Carolina BAM. It was a big.
Explain to me how you compete in a beard competition. I saw Whisker Wars. Yeah. I was still confused.
Okay, it took me a minute first. There's multiple categories. So like your mustache, you would be in like the mustache natural category because you're not styling it out. If you had a big old curly wax styled up, then that's mustache styled category.
Okay.
So you're in your division. You're not like going up against the guy with the 7-foot beard or the crazy curly mustache. Those stay on their own. But there's a whole category for just regular natural mustache, and it's like who has the finest groomed. It comes down to how does it look, and it's the judges are always just it's up to them. There is no real like written down criteria. Yeah, it's just how does it look? Do you look disheveled and awful, or does it look like you keep it up and it's nicely groomed and filled in properly, and et cetera, et cetera. There's their own categories that they judge on, but it's really entertaining. A lot of these categories, like there's actually the two favorite categories are the women's categories, and let me explain.
Please.
Choose
your next words carefully. Choose your next words carefully.
Well, it's all fake beards, but it's fake realistic looking and fake creative, wild, artistic looking.
Okay.
And the realistic ones are creepy sometimes because we had one girl and she won in this category. She had cut her own boyfriend's actual beard off and like had applied it to her own face.
That's creepy.
And it looked really good, like the way she did it. It looked natural, and it was really like, whoa. It was weird, bearded lady style. And it was some that he had like trimmed away to do a style, so they competed in different categories together. But she won the natural one, and then there's the creative one, which is really my favorite. I've seen a ton of them, and one of my favorites was a girl. She was dressed like Elmer Fudd and had a beard made of shotgun shells. And there was one girl dressed like a Girl Scout and had a beard made of cookies, and and then she had like a milk carton with milk splashing over it for her mustache and everything. And the girl that won this last one that we did was it was like a whole like a grandfather clock beard. I don't know how, but it was like a shelf with lights and things inside of a beard. It was amazing.
Somehow she had the neck strength.
Yeah, or maybe there's a body harness. I'm not sure what was involved, but it looked really cool. But that's how you do it. That's how you compete. And, they're just for trophies and notoriety and for fun. And generally all the money raised goes to the charity that we work with. So it's just a way to bring money to charity and have a good time, see a bunch of crazy beards and drink a lot of beer.
Okay. It seems like beer drinking would be an important part of that.
Yeah, there's definitely some beer drinking involved.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what else we gotta get with you. What are some other things you work on? Like another thing that Candace brought up, and I don't know if you can bring it up here on camera or not, but you do tech stuff for websites.
Well, yeah. I mean, that just falls into the whole graphic design. I mean, I've built websites for many years. I don't do it anymore. I do it for the company that I work for now. It's just that the company I work for is a little tool company that they just do rigging equipment. It's a very like, for what I do, it's very mundane and rote, but it's within my wheelhouse, very easy. I don't have to expend a lot of creative energy. I hope they're not watching that. I put so much energy,
so much time,
so much. But it's I maintain all their websites, and it allows me to keep my chops up on like server administration and a little database management and a few little things in the back end. But honestly, I've really toned down on that because that is a major pain in the butt for any kind of freelancer to do websites.
Yeah, my friend Ken, who runs my website, he also runs a podcast and he also does website, and then he also ran a wrestling T-shirt company at one point in time. And
I feel like website people always end up running T-shirt companies.
Is that a common thing?
It does seem to be I don't know.
It does help because you can just streamline. You can basically just create a PayPal button, and you already know how to do that, and you already know how to make graphics. You just have to find a way to get it on a T-shirt.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've done T-shirt designs and stuff too. It's all just a manner of design.
I need to either keep you away from pro wrestling, or I need to like hand you over to the community because they will if you want friends.
Yeah, I love friends. Don,
I'll just throw you out to the wolves. It literally will be like, hey, this guy knows how to make T-shirts, you know how to make websites and all kinds of stuff. People will eat you alive.
I'll never have time again.
You'll never have time again. You'll see a bunch of pictures of guys in spandex trunks. That's all you're gonna see, and you'll be photoshopping that.
Awesome. I actually, because I'm doing Muay Thai, I really want to start doing some photography because I don't have a lot of, I guess we'd call it like fitness photography or things of like active sports and these intense kind of things. I want to do more of that, and I like doing really hard, gritty lighting. Like for
my friend,
make everything look like a Gatorade commercial.
I know some buildings that are very gritty, and they barely let pro wrestling in there. I know some gritty places,
nice.
And some gritty people as well.
Yeah.
So we could definitely bring those points together.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you do that I haven't brought up that keeps you busy, that occupies your time?
I mean, I don't know. I go to festivals. That's fun. That's just playtime.
That's just playtime.
Yeah, it's not really.
But another reason I wanted to sit down and talk with you, especially since you do so many things and wear so many hats, is like, how do you juggle all that? Because one of the big things that I started this podcast with was the idea of understanding success and what that means for people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and how people become successful.
Well, I've pretty much given up all free time and hangouts with friends. I don't go out ever anymore.
Yeah.
Really, it's between. I mean, I go to work and then I get off work and I go. And luckily, now here's the great thing: is my job allows me to create my own schedule. Mm-hmm. I am considered a part-time employee, but I can work up to full-time if I want to. I can work no hours a week if I have to. Like, they know that they come second to my photography, which is really the first thing. And I travel around a lot, and that keeps me busy. But between work and photography, I've also got the Muay Thai, which I'm now quite involved in. So I go 3-4 times a week. And then if I do get a moment at home, it's usually to edit photos that I've already taken for the past few days. I've always got some kind of work queued up. I do, I take time for myself. I actually dedicate Friday nights to not going out, not doing anything, sitting here, drinking beer, eating pizza, watching Netflix. Like, that's just I have to have that or I would go crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've just stacked my schedule to where I really just don't have any free time anymore. I'm hoping that changes. You get a few of the bigger jobs and start making decent money at that point.
But you're not going to.
No, never. I'm just going to work myself to death.
Because you get the more money and you're thinking about it. My uncle runs into that problem now. He's a sound recordist for film. He works for NFL Films.
I actually do that too.
We also do, yes. Okay. Well, there you go.
I've worked in recording studios. I've done sound on films, and
yeah. My uncle works for NFL Films, and he's worked for 60 Minutes, and
nice.
he keeps getting more jobs and more. And he said he's going to retire.
Well, sound guys are in big demand too.
Yeah, like he rarely ever gets a day off. Like he works for NASCAR, and then he works for NFL Films, and then he's always bouncing around anything on the West Coast. And the problem is he's good.
Yeah,
and that's
terrible issue.
It is, and of course his wife was very good. She's the one that taught him how to do it.
Oh, okay.
And so now when he doesn't have a job, she picks it up.
Oh, nice.
And especially
now
now,
tag team duo. That's
yeah,
nice.
pretty much. So like that family is just keep raking it in.
That's awesome.
And the thing is, their kid is already graduated and moved on, so they're just like, it's like, why do you guys need any more money in this world? Like,
man.
or why you guys need to keep working? Like but they love it. They want to do it. Like, I mean,
Well, at least it's something they love. It's not work.
he's on the sideline for the Super Bowl every year.
That's awesome.
You know,
awesome.
every year, and they want him there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's nice. And when people want you there and appreciate your skill set,
That's how I feel that I'm starting to feel that with my photography. Like I now work with some organizations in Charlotte where like I'm shooting the Thanksgiving Day parade this year. I did it last year, and it was a lot of fun. I get to be right there, right like at the starting line of the parade where they're all coming, so I get to see everything closer than any audience member. You know, interact with them. It's a lot of fun. You know, and they want me there. They like my stuff and they want me to do it. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, oh wow, thank you. You know, it's cool. It's fun.
On that thought of satisfaction. We talk about success, and what is that for you? What is it that you seek out? You know, when you do these things, or the fact that you do all those things. What is it that you're seeking out? What is it that you're looking for, you think?
I think it's partly a combo of me wanting to just better my own skill sets. Everything I do, I'm constantly learning. I'm never going to consider myself a pro ever. I'm always wanting more knowledge. But the end goal, honestly, money is not even a big motivator for me. Like, it's nice to have, it's necessary to live, but I like experience. I enjoy collecting physical, real experiences. And for what I do, makes me, meet new people all the time, travel around all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I get to have these experiences. So for me, it's a personal enrichment kind of thing, I think.
Is that something that you learned, or was that something that you always knew? Because it's definitely something I had to learn.
Yeah, I would say I learned it. I mean, when I was younger, like everyone, I was far more materialistic. I actually had a house fire a few years ago that wiped out everything. I was out of town, and it was a big major mess, and that could be a story I could go into if you want.
Please, if it got you that journry.
It's a pretty heavy story.
Well, then tell it.
Well, okay, so I'll give you some Cliff Note brushstrokes here, but it was 3 years ago, actually. 3 years? Yeah, it was 3 years ago this September, so it was just over 3 years ago. I was out of town. I was dating this girl, and she was an amazing reporter, a news reporter on air. And she was really young and just getting into the scene of it. Hadn't had a lot of experience with it. But she got an agent, and he got her a job out in Missoula, Montana. And apparently in the news organization, you can't just start in Charlotte. It's a high market. You have to work your way up. So this was a big deal for her.
Going to Montana.
Yeah.
Kid, we're going to put the rocket ship on you. We're going to send you to Montana.
Well, you have no idea. So, and we'd been dating for like a year and a half. We were the same as anyone. We had our issues. We enjoyed each other quite a bit, mm-hmm. But I knew that I wasn't going to just make her stay here. I couldn't do that. So we eventually worked it out. I helped her ship all her stuff over there, and then I drove her out there, and we had this wonderful cross-country trip, and it was the first time I've ever gotten to see the middle of the U.S., which if you ever get a chance to drive in the middle of Nebraska in the middle of the night when it's a clear sky and there's no lights around, and you get out of your car and you can see the actual Milky Way. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Never get to see that in Charlotte. So we drove out, went to Montana. I had this whole 2 weeks of final huzzah with the girl, and then gonna fly back to Charlotte, and we start our individual lives or whatever. But 4 days into my trip, I was laying in bed, and I got a call, or I got a text. It was one of my friends. He said, "If you need anything in this world, let me know." And I was like, "Well, that's nice. Well, thanks." I didn't.
I don't know. Random acts of kindness. For me, always nice to receive.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh well, that's all right." And I was like, "What do you mean? What's up?" And he kind of called me, and he was like, what are you doing? What's going on? I'm like, well, I'm out in Montana, blah, 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 having a good time. And he was like, oh, God, I don't want to be the one to tell you this. Apparently, he drove by and saw my place burnt down and all the fire trucks and everything. And
nobody got in contact with you?
Well, here's the fun part. The guy I was living with, and I'll refrain from naming names, but anyone watching this who knows me and knows him knows who I'm talking about.
Okay.
The guy I was living with, he's a super sweet guy I've known for 10 years, and he's kind of a bum and sort of one of those guys that doesn't really, he's just always kind of on that edge of failing and just never seems to pull himself out, but he's a spunky little guy and we all love him, so we all give him a chance. So, you know, I was like, he needed a place to stay, and I was like, yeah, you can live with me, against every one of my friends is like, don't do it. Nah, I got this, don't worry.
It's gonna be like a sitcom, don't worry.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh man, it was. We definitely had our moments, but my only rule, I only had one rule in the house, was don't smoke inside. Just go outside to smoke, mainly because I didn't want to smell it. It had nothing to do with fire or anything like that. But of course, I went out of town, and you know, he was having some kind of issues with his girl, and ended up getting super whiskey drunk and fell asleep with a lit cigarette. Now, normally that wouldn't cause all this, you know, issue, but there was an eyewitness there. There was somebody there with him who ended up telling me the whole story, and so it turned out like he fell asleep. The chair arm caught on fire, which kind of burned him and woke him up. And he was just, you know, smashed. Of course, he had no idea what to do. Probably.
oh, my arm is hot. I think I'll just walk outside.
No, he grabbed the blanket off of her. She was sleeping on the couch. He grabbed the blanket off of her and started like fanning the fire and trying to put it out.
Oh.
Of course, caught the blanket on fire, caught more of the chair on fire. At this point, she woke up to see him flinging small pieces of flaming blanket all over the living room, creating little tennis ball fires.
So it turned into a Mr. Bean sketch, is what you're saying.
It really did. Like, I mean, it's hilarious to look back at. It's like, really? So that's not it. So after he realizes that's not working and throws it off into the corner, thereby creating another fire over in the corner, he runs to the kitchen and gets a glass of water and runs back and starts trying to do one glass of water at a time. Realizes that's not working.
And then realized you guys had like natural gas in your water, and that starts on fire too, and making it worse.
Yeah, no, fracking.
Yeah.
Well, we had all the living room, dining room, and kitchen were all connected in one long hallway, and he opened the front and back door, I guess, to let the smoke out, but that created a flue. So of course,
I'm sorry.
It's comically bad.
So now, like, I've seen that happen in movies before, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Apparently, it's all feasible.
It is absolutely feasible, and then so the fire spread from the living room through the dining room into the kitchen, where in the middle of the kitchen is a pantry that we kept all our paints and solvents in. So
it's even better.
So apparently it goes over there and explodes, and the fire department said there was a white hot fire in that area. It blew out the windows, crawled up, and started and burned up the apartment upstairs. The lady upstairs was woken up by her cats and got out barely just by like crawling across the burning carpet. She had burns all over her arms and everything. It was really bad. Her cats did not make it, unfortunately. Yeah, it was quite awful. Everything I owned, the whole house was mine. He had the stuff in his bedroom and like the coffee table. Everything else was mine, and he
brought you. He's like, oh, listen, I don't want to be a freeloader. I got a coffee table, and I'm bringing this.
I mean, it was a sweet table. It really was.
Okay, well, it was that sweet of a table, then by all means. Normally, people bring a TV, a game system, but if that was all mine. Okay, well, if the coffee table was what swayed you, more power to you.
Yeah. Well, for me, ultimately, the reason I let him live with me was because, he's a buddy, and I'm very tolerant. I have patience for days for a lot of stuff. I don't care about, things don't get to me and bug me like that. So, yeah, he was a screw up all the time and kept losing his job and was late on rent. But, all right, well, he eventually came through. All right, whatever. So it wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so all that happened. And, it was even to the point where, like, the upstairs neighbor said she ran out and saw him just standing there, like, watching the fire, smoking a cigarette. And, like, the girl that was in there with him had run out and was, like, banging on everyone's door, waking him up. And he's just standing there, and she's, like, screaming at him, call 911. He's like, huh? Just wasted. So I heard that it took 2 fire trucks and 44 firefighters a half an hour to put this fire out. It's an apartment building. Like, holy, what? From a cigarette.
Yeah.
And see, the worst part was he lied to everybody, including the fire marshal, and everyone said it was electrical fire and it wasn't him and all this stuff. Even the fire marshal was like, I've heard the recording. He was like, it's improperly discarded smoking materials, and he goes, oh, you can't prove that. I have a reputation. Like, what?
It's not a good one, but I have one.
What's funny is everybody knew he was lying anyway, like everyone I talked to. But he persisted with it and ended up basically winning the lottery. Somehow the company who was renting to me, I don't know what he told them. This is what I'm like, I was out of town still. I had to reschedule and get a new flight. I couldn't even get the money back from the flight cancellation. I had to buy a new ticket, and they wouldn't. Yeah, they were like,
yeah, because you had a one way, so you'd have to cancel. You couldn't just change and return. Yeah,
so irritating. Like, and I was like, I have proof. Like, I'm sending him fire marshal reports, and it took like 4 months to get the money back from that ticket. It was crazy. Anyway, in the meantime, I don't know what he told them, but he got they rented him a new house, and a whole bunch of people donated stuff to him, like a new PlayStation and TV and a guitar.
To him?
Yeah. Because he's a really nice guy. He's a very good guitar player, and he was in a band, and so like he had a lot of.
But that's your place,
right? Well, he lied to everybody. That's the problem. He lied about all that stuff. He took all the donations and got his little thing, and then I did this whole like while I was still in Montana, I started a Kickstarter kind of thing.
Okay.
Because I was like, well, I know how this works. I've done one of these for people before, so I'm doing one for myself. I took a picture, and it was a genuine. I took a piece of cardboard and wrote "homeless and talented," and like took a photo of me, and it spread like wildfire. I mean, it was a really big help, and I was blown away by how many people really actually like stepped up out of nowhere and were like, "You don't know me, but I've seen your work, and I love what you do, and here's $20." Like it was just like, wow, And I ended up raising like $4 or $5 grand. And was able to buy some equipment back and start working again, like so I could start shooting again. And here I am now.
That's the biggest thing, because like I think about that a lot of time too. When I lived in this house by myself, because I'm very paranoid. I have. It hasn't been diagnosed, but I would be somebody. Wouldn't surprise me if I found out I had OCD, where I have to check the oven, I have to unlock the doors and relock them, and unlock them and relock them, and then make sure this fan is off, and this is like.
Sure. Yeah.
And I freak out every time. When I leave, like, oh, there's a fire. But then if I know I have my camera, or there was a time if I just had my wrestling gear. Yeah. Like, well, as long as I have my wrestling gear, that's the only thing that isn't replaceable in the house. But then all of a sudden now I got all this other stuff. Yeah. If I had my camera with me, if the house burns down, I don't have.
Well, you know what I did have with me that was amazing. I happened to bring to Montana with me my hard drive that contained all my photography.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I lost everything. I lost $80 grand worth of of audio equipment, cameras, computer stuff.
See, now that I got all this stuff in here, that freaks me out right now, because that computer, like,
that's your lifeblood right there.
Yeah, right now it's pretty important. Like right now I have quite a bit just in this one room.
Yeah.
So
well, that's how I felt, and the fact that I had that with me, I had a laptop, a camera with a basic lens. All my good lenses were back home, of course, so they all got ruined. Yeah. But I had a camera body and a basic lens, a couple with me for traveling, and a laptop and that hard drive with all my photography, and it was just like, at least I have this, and so I've been able to at least keep my, and that I didn't have a really good online portfolio at that point yet, so I was like, nope, at this point, it's all going up. So now I have this huge archive website of like all my stuff.
Sometimes that's the incentive to put stuff like that up just online. It exists here.
Yeah.
So if physically you don't have it, well, it exists here.
Yeah, at least I can prove it. Yeah, it's still a thing.
Yeah. So that's good.
To top all of that off, at the time that, like, right when I had my girlfriend, had decided all this, and we were working on, getting her over there. It was kind of a crappy time in my life. I'm losing my girlfriend. I didn't know about the house yet. But I had also just lost my photo mentor to lung cancer that I'd watched him battle for 2 years. And he was my Yoda, man. He took my skill level from like here to here and really, showed me like, this is what you need to do for this. And he was Belk's chief fashion photographer for, a decade. Mm-hmm. And he was an old friend of my dad's. And that's how we got hooked up, and he taught me a whole bunch of stuff. While he was sick and everything, I would come over and do chores for him, like Mr. Miyagi style. Like, I would come over and just like mow his grass and do all this stuff, and in return, he would teach me like insider photography secrets. Oh, wow. And so I lost him, and then right when we were leaving, so then that happened, and then I got the fire. It was just like, I literally lost everything. I lost my mentor, my girl, my house, all my belongings. I mean, my life was gone. Like all my plans and projects, anything I was working on, it was up in smoke, literally. So that's that's a serious moment. Like, you really have to, you face yourself, because that's all you have left. And so I was devastated. I was about to leave the country, and I had the girl who is my current roommate. She was like, well, we go to these festivals. You know what Burning Man is? Yeah. Well, there's these regional festivals that are like smaller Burning Man festivals, and they adhere to the same principles. And frankly, I think are a lot better than the big one, because the big one is too commercialized now, and it's kind of but the small ones are still community based, and and it's an amazing, this amount of intelligent, driven people who are all like, outreaching and nice and, want to help and everything. It was like real community. So she was like, well, you got to come to this thing with me before you leave, and handed me a ticket and was like, this is, we're giving this to you. It's your gift. Okay. So I went, and I just met all these amazing people. And, these burner people, these aren't like hippies. They're not ravers. They're not like festy kids. These are like, I would liken them more to like Mad Max style, like ambitious, driven, smart, figuring things out. And, and then they all come together and have this big festival. And yes, there's like fire and, fun and stuff, but, you make friends, you work on projects and things. And I've like, my whole life got rebuilt from the people that I met there, and I've got all new stuff going, and, here we are now. Yeah. Like, you just have to, I don't know. It's hard to just suddenly on the spot put it into words, but I had to refine myself. Like, and I found myself again less materialistic than I was before. It took losing everything to realize how unimportant all that crap was. And it was stuff like I've traveled the world a little bit, and I had mementos and all that stuff, but I still have all that here. So it's like I learned at that point, like, I'm more about the experience now. I don't care about the things as much. It doesn't matter. It's more about, what did I learn from it? What I gained from it? What will I carry on with it?
Oh.
So yeah, there you go.
There's the answer.
That's the Cliff Notes.
That's what we needed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's the important thing. And it always seems like when people have a loss, that's when they find out more about themselves and more about what's important.
Yeah, I don't ever wish that on anyone, but I feel like I wish that on everyone.
Well, yeah. You could, well, the good part of it, the self awareness of it.
Yeah, so the coming back strong. I hope it doesn't happen to anyone, and it really crushes them, because that can. I'm lucky that I have such a strong network of support through friends and family, that I wasn't just out there. Like, I look at these guys who are out on the street now and stuff a little differently after that,
because it could have happened.
It's amazing how fast it could have happened to me, But I had friends who were willing to let me like crash on their couch for here and there. I jumped around for a while. I ended up moving back home with mom for a little bit, and I just built up my stuff, built up my savings. Stayed super frugal. And that's where the whole not going out as much and all that stuff started happening, because it was like, well, I really have to build my life back up. So I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to buy that expensive thing. I'm not going to do that. And so I focused on, like, I just save up for this piece of equipment, save up for this piece. And now I've got my basics back and all the stuff, and I can do, the jobs I need to do. And so,
yeah. And friends are a big part of that. Like, because the time where I was homeless when I lived here, I didn't have anybody I can turn to. And I think that's sometimes important. And sometimes people forget about the connections you make.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and I think that's the thing that probably pulls people through a lot of times.
Yeah, so. It did. I think if I didn't have any people around me, I probably wouldn't even be in the country right now. I'd just be floating around as a, vagabond nomad. Let's just go.
Which is fun in itself.
Yeah.
I romanticize about that sometimes. Don't get me wrong. Especially when I make that house payment every month. Being a vagabond doesn't look too bad.
Yeah. It's
much cheaper.
It only gets cold certain times of the year, I guess. Yeah. The rest of the year's fine.
But anyways, Austin, I thank you for sharing that story. That's an amazing story, and those are the type of stories I want to get on here. And I'm definitely gonna put you in contact with some people in pro wrestling. But
that'd be fun.
But anyway, if there's anybody that wants to get in contact with you about the things that you do, anybody that wants to make new friends with Austin now that you've heard his story, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, the easiest way is to find me on Facebook, Austin Caine. It's Caine. Austin with an I, like the city in Texas. Just austincaine.com is my website. That's all my photography. You can contact me from there and see all the stuff I do. Facebook.com/Austin Caine, Twitter.com/Austin Caine, Instagram.com/Austin Caine. Luckily, I didn't have to put crazy numbers and stuff, so I just got /Austin Caine.
_1 or anything.
Yeah. So I got all the, I was on the internet early enough to grab all the stuff that I needed to. But yeah, just whatever, so your favorite social media, type in my name and I'll probably pop up
here. Well, anyways, Austin, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for
it's
having
been
me.
An absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a good time, man.
All right.
Cool.